I don't wanna wait it, I don't wanna say.
Happy Sunday Fun Day, everybody. This is Charlie Maverick. I'm back with another episode of the Backyard Pitmaster podcast, brought to you by the Mavcast Podcast Network. I hope everyone's doing great. No, we had a really long week, work, shenanigans, just getting used to getting back out in the world. You know, pandemic is still happening. Hope you're being safe out there. But I hope you are ready to have some fun today. I just want to let you guys know this is an audio stream, which is live, and you have technology out there to help you listen as you would like to on all your devices. So make sure that you utilize that and stream on your Chromecast, on your smart speaker, play it loud on your phone speaker, and just play it in the background. This is an audio only podcast, so feel free to just have that thing pumping while you're eating your breakfast, while you're getting dressed to go out into the world and have fun on this Sunday and get ready for your football games. Oh, it is time to have fun talking about live fire. But before we get to that, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. So on the podcast network, got a few things to let you know about. So the Mavcast live show is going to return next Friday. It's going to be Tim Turner. If you haven't listened to the episodes on the feed, I have a bonus content episode where I was on his podcast, which is the Post-Human podcast. Say podcast a lot, right? And we talked about a whole bunch of things. We talked about movies, grilling. We talked about just podcasting and content creation in general. Also, next up after that, next Sunday is going to be Jesus Take the Wheel with Mama Maverick, my mother, as we talk about all things people talk about on Sunday, getting ready for food and all that. It's going to be great. So with that said, make sure that you send your birthday shout outs. That's what we're going to incorporate into the show. So make sure you do that. And also make sure that you follow me socially on Twitter and Facebook at Charlie Maverick. Keep up with me with the photos of my barbecue cooks, the little shenanigans I, post, a little funny stuff, serious stuff, and thought-provoking items as well. I try to be well-rounded. I try. I don't know if I succeed, but I damn sure try. So, without further ado, this is the Backyard Pitmaster Podcast live recording. We come to you every weekend to talk about live fire. Today, I am really excited. You don't know how excited I am. I am usually not a person that looks at YouTube videos, likes and comments on them, but the stars align and I just happen to do, that comment and like on a pretty damn good series of videos from this guy that is making live fire cooking fun, educational, and making me hungry every time I look at one of his videos. I'm talking about my wife and I were looking at one this past week and stomach started rumbling. Yeah, that happens. Now, you got a good video if your stomach starts rumbling and you're like, I got to do that. I should go get that. Hey, where you live? Can we come by? So I'm excited to bring to the forefront first-time guest on the Pitmaster podcast, Jeffrey Boyd, which is the Backyard Pitmaster himself and creator of Outdoors with Jeff on YouTube. So let me post that link right there, which will take you to his channel. And I'm going to bring in Jeff right now so we can talk about all things live fire. Good morning, brother.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Hey, good morning, Charlie. How you doing?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Oh, doing good, man. Doing good. The weather's gonna be bad for the next couple of days, so not too much grilling going on, but got some in last night.
That's good. What'd you cook last night?
Just did a pizza on the Acorn.
Oh,
So really quick cook, but it came out really well. one of the quick
Okay.
go-tos during the week when when you want something that's quick and fast and easy.
That's great. That's great. So it's your first time on the podcast. And for those that have never seen your videos, never heard of you before, give like a quick summation or summation. I got to get that right. Summation of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, man. I love barbecue. I have a passion for getting out on the grill or the smoker and really just going through the process of the prep, managing a fire and just getting some good food in the end. And I ended up starting outdoors with Jeff last year during the pandemic. I actually gotten a new grill, and it was just like I actually feel like I enjoy this so much. I want to share it with others, and just started making YouTube videos, and that's how the channel got started. I bring a focus on trying to get different flavor profiles. Being in Georgia, I love my barbecue sauce, but one thing I like to stress to people is not everything has to have a red barbecue sauce. There are
Right.
plenty of different things you can try and plenty of different flavor profiles that you can utilize to get some great tasting food that happens to come off of the grill.
Yeah, that is true. That is definitely true. So how we linked up was I forget the video that I commented on. And usually I don't do that at all. I just go down a rabbit hole because I watch it on the tube and not actually on a tablet or a phone. So it's less convenient when I do that. But I like the video so much because I go through rabbit holes of watching barbecue videos and all that, and I'm like, hey, this is young black brother that's out here making pretty darn good like instructional videos. I gotta give him props on that. I gotta give him props. And you hit me back up in the comments, and we just took it over to the Google chat and started going back and forth. I was actually trying to get you on the show for a couple of months now. It was my fault. I just had scheduling stuff going on. But lo and
Oh, trust me, I
behold,
understand, man.
yeah, stars aligned, and here we are. Um, so first question I wanted to ask you is when is the first time you ever like grilled something, and what did you use?
So the first time I was thinking about this question. So the first time I ever grilled, and this isn't on my first smoker, but it was a grill that my family had. I think I had to be it maybe about like 10 years old, maybe 9 or
10.
10, something like that. Well,
Oh
you know how
wow.
it is, when you're told, when something's on and you're just told just to watch it,
Yeah.
you know. But the grill that my dad had, it wasn't, I can't even remember. I think it was a grill from Sears. And
Mm,
it was one of these
okay.
grills that was just it just had it had to be like a 36 by 20 grill or something like that. It didn't have a lid on it. It was one of these charcoal grills where you just had the thing where you adjusted it and it just went up or down. So it wasn't any
Oh,
type of
okay.
air control or anything like that, but it was literally just hamburgers and hot dogs.
So it's
And that's
something like
really
a Santa Maria grill, but not really.
something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Because we were really kind of basic with the barbecue back then, just hamburgers and hot dogs, and that was really the extent of what we did from that standpoint. Um, that was the first grill that I actually remember cooking something on.
Okay. So when did you really start getting into barbecue itself? I know that you're from Virginia and you
Yeah,
moved to Georgia, specifically Atlanta area. Um,
yeah.
first, how did that transition happen with moving locations, and how did you actually start getting into barbecue?
With that, I was working for a big box retailer and moving around quite a bit at my own behest. Not being forced to move or anything, but uh, I really got into barbecue. It was in 2011. I relocated from North Carolina, from the from the Charlotte area to
Oh,
St.
Charlotte.
Louis, Missouri,
Oh,
and
wow.
got out there and had an apartment, and was working some pretty long hours, and going out and come home and sit on the balcony and just try and relax. And I got into barbecue basically. One day I was at Walmart and I just saw a little $20 grill, little no name Walmart grill, and I was
Did it
like,
have a blue top?
it was actually red. It was a red
Red.
top
Okay.
and black bottom. Yeah,
Yes. They change the color sometimes.
yeah, yeah. And I got some charcoal, and started out basic, just doing some burgers, and then looking at that and saying, I can do some more on here, because I pride myself as a pretty good cook in the kitchen. I was like, I can learn how to barbecue, just
Mm.
and start looking at things on YouTube, and then saw the snake method, and I was like, yeah, I want some ribs. So I was like, I'm
Oh.
gonna do these one slow. I went ahead and lined up the side, and got I didn't use wood chunks in there. I actually used wood chips. With that I soaked a little bit, and started basically started there with ribs, and then started going from there. But I made a lot of barbecue on that little smoker, just churning small amounts of things out.
So for those that don't know what the snake method is, can you give a breakdown of how that works?
Yeah, yeah, it's a very simple process of taking any size grill and making it into a cooking with indirect heat.
Mm.
And the snake method is literally where you just line up along the edge of the grill. Um, or if it's hard to do on the edge of the grill, if you have an aluminum pan or something in the bottom, where you line up along the edge and you light one end of you take the charcoals, and you can do it in stacks of two stacks or three stacks. I usually do two, and stack them up and line the edge, and then you light it at one end, and that provides a slow burn. And you adjust your vents to where you typically can run about two 225, maybe 275, and you're going to get a low, slow, continuous cook for some hours. And if you put some wood chips or chunks on there, you'll get a good constant smoke. But you put the chips on there in different phases, so you figure after the first hour you're gonna get a little bit of smoke, and then you have it hitting up the next batch after another hour. So it's a pretty good process to kind of turn kind of uh any kind of pit into a slow indirect cooker.
Mm. How long did it take you to master that method?
The first probably about two or three times.
Two or three.
Because
Oh, you're a quick
yeah,
learner.
because the issue I was having was getting the flare ups where I
Mm.
where I had my chips at, and then that would spike the temperature, and from the bottom of that grill to the top, it was maybe about, I want to say maybe 24, maybe a little bit more than 24 inches, maybe a little more. So you didn't have a lot of room for error when it came to
Right.
that heat getting in there. So I had to learn the chip placement, and not going heavy with it and things of that nature. So
Did you have to get real scientific with it, or did you just basically just figure it out from that trial and error? Did you have to
yeah,
look up and research things?
no, it was just from trial and error. Just use a little bit less here, spread it out, and it worked out pretty good. It wasn't anywhere near as complicated as it seems.
Uh, so when did you realize that, okay, I got this grill, I'm doing the burgers and brats, I mastered this snake method, and then when did you have the realization that it's time for me to step my game up and get your first like big boy grill or
Yeah.
smoker?
When I moved to Atlanta, I went ahead and got I believe it was a smoke hollow offset smoker,
Ooh.
and I ended up making some good barbecue on that, learning how to manage a fire, and learning the difference between. That's where a lot of learning came into place. Actually,
Mhm.
learning how to manage a fire, and not necessarily just cooking with straight charcoal anymore, but a combination of charcoal and wood, or sometimes just using wood splits, and learning the difference between good smoke and bad smoke, and clean smoke and dirty smoke, and making sure that side of it was right too. Because hey, those first couple of cooks on that offset were not meant for eating. you know.
I I remember the first time I really cooked on an offset because my dad had one. I
Mhm.
didn't really know how to use it at all either. And that was before YouTube. Whatever. So so I'm just on here and I thought I was doing something like really nice. So I had a slab of I think it was spare ribs on there. My dad's listening. Sorry for this. But yeah, so I didn't know how to really use that the firebox. So
Mhm.
I tried. I had a lot of dirty smoke from what I learned later. And from what I was thinking was the right way to make this is, hey, I'm smoking it right if the exterior looks almost burnt, but yay. So I brought it inside. I told the story before on the podcast, so sorry if I'm repeating it, but I brought it inside. And I'm like, yes, I did it. I did it great. I did it great. And my grandmother, she was like, uh, I don't think I could eat this. It was hard as a brick. I'm almost discouraged me from cooking like ever again after that. Ever again. So after those first two cooks, what kept you from like just dropping everything? Like I'm not gonna do this shit
I tell you what, man, the investment in the smoker, man. I was like, I'm gonna learn this thing because I'm not giving this away or or selling it. I'm gonna get some. I'm gonna get some. I'm gonna master this thing. It's not gonna get me.
anymore.
And just reviewing some things, and I tell you what, man. I mean, some of the things that you get caught up with some of the fads and some of the things that you hear. When I first started on with the offset, I really wasn't choosing my wood correctly and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I was going for some of the harsher tones. I tell you what, man, I used to get some mesquite splits,
Ooh.
and we
Yeah,
and we
that's
know some mesquite is a
yes, strong.
that yes, and I would do some chicken, man, and
Oh,
you know, and then it's like, and then afterward, it's like, I'd like, yeah, that's not gonna work on the chicken. It's just mesquite is just too harsh. So then, started looking at some of the cherries and apples and oats and things of that nature, and getting starting to learn the flavor profiles of and pairings with protein and with the wood, with the type of flavor and the type of smoke that you want, the type of taste.
yeah.
And that's what really kind of helped me to get to where I need to get to on the offset.
How long did it take you to kind of feel comfortable in your abilities to almost cook anything on that offset? Did it take you? I'm sure it took you more than twice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it took to get to a point to where I felt comfortable with getting anything on there was probably about maybe 6 months.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think, and I
about right.
yeah, and I also think the other part of it too was dealing with the offset is not the same thing as a Weber kettle, where you can,
Nope.
even though you have a setup time with the Weber kettle as far as getting your chimney right and everything.
Mhm.
um One of the things I love the flavor you get from the offset, but from a timing standpoint, like if I came home from work or whatever and wanted to throw something on, it's not just throw it on with the offset. You
Yes.
gotta get the fire, or whatever the case may be. You almost need another little small grill or something for your fast wheat cooks during the wheat cooks. So
Yeah, for those that don't have offset smokers, just put into context what that what the time dedication is, because what I remember from it, although I use it the wrong way, what I remember from it is you gotta kind of like start it maybe an hour before you start to put the meat on, so you can make sure that
yeah,
temperature levels out a little bit, and then you have to
yeah.
stay by it constantly so you don't see like the temperature spike up and down.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. You gotta look at what you're burning, if you're doing wood or if you're doing charcoal or a mix. A lot of times, I just use charcoal to start my fire, then get some wood on top of that, get that burning, and then go from there. and then making sure that you're getting, good clean smoke coming through by not choking off the fire. It's kind of measuring out your vents, your entry vent, and then your exhaust, to where that fire is getting enough air to burn clean.
Mhm.
And at the same time, you have to take into account, like you're talking about, the timing, where if you're trying to cook, you need to get out there, an hour and a half, hour beforehand, to get set, to where you're going to have some good quality smoke for your cook.
And about the good quality smoke, because if you look at how they, I guess, advertise certain things, maybe even on Food Network, because they have like a Pitmaster like cooking competition there. People think that if you have that white billowing smoke, then you're actually doing something. But tell people the difference between dirty smoke and clean smoke.
Yeah, that billowing smoke is exactly what you're talking about. That's dirty smoke right there. And it depends on what you're cooking with. Because you can get dirty smoke from starting charcoal too, because you have to wait for some of the additives to burn off and whatnot. Especially when you're using briquettes, lump doesn't have as much of a burn off time, because it's just carbonized wood that's been burned down. So you're really dealing with just the base right there from that standpoint. But the dirty smoke is that billowing smoke that you see, that's heavy and white, and gray. You don't want that on your food. That's going to give your food a bitter, acrid taste. You
Yeah.
you really don't want that. You want to let all that stuff burn off and clear off. And then when you get a thin blue or a thin, faint white smoke, and it actually has no matter what kind of wood you're burning, has kind of a sweet smell to it, then
Mhm.
you're ready. When you it's good to do a nose test. If it's sweet, it's good. If you put your nose to it and you get a burn when you smell it, then you know that you got some bad smoke right there.
Let me tell you how you know you got some bad smoke also. So there was this time in 2016 that I promised myself I'll never speak of again, but I'm going to do it. And it was with the grill that we talked about in the pre-show. And we'll get to that. But there was God help me. I forget what I was cooking, probably ribs. And I opened the grill and it was like white smoke just like a chimney just going up and up and up, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing something great. I opened it, and yeah, I happened to breathe that in at the same time, and I think it was like 3 days where my lungs had to recover. I literally had to call out from work because I took in so much dirty smoke. I probably was on the verge of like really bad smoke inhalation.
Yeah, man, that stuff has a it's just got some stuff in there, man, that you don't want to breathe in, and you don't want it on your food. So trust me, I know what you mean. I went through the same thing myself during the learning process.
Oh man, that's like disheartening. And it was also at that point where my wife was like, I don't like smoke because I was getting dirty smoke, right? I was just getting
Yeah.
dirty smoke. I didn't know any better. I had to learn through trial and error and research on YouTube. And yeah, I got better over time, but I'm like, I'm putting all this work into the food. I hope my wife likes it. She's like,
Yeah,
it's hurting my stomach. I'm like, God damn it, it's that dirty smoke.
and,
It did
and I tell
everything.
you, I tell you, man, it's the thing too, because I mean, you want to master your grilling. You want to put out some good food, and then you're sitting there and you got people around, and or
Mhm.
somebody's waiting on dinner or whatever the case may be, and then you're standing out there, and it's like you have that thought in your head, yeah, man, I don't think they're gonna be able to eat this. I may just need to order some takeout. you know,
Pizza,
when you're going,
you know.
yeah, when you're going through that learning phase, um, so I definitely get what you're saying on that.
Yeah, it's something that you don't want to be the person that is messing up the food that people have been waiting so long for, because sometimes it takes hours to finish your meal.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and You take pride in what you do. And if you don't know any better, like I did at that time, I'm like, well, I did it right. Well, I like it. Why don't you like it? So,
Yeah.
and then you realize later, dang, I was kind of an a-hole. I was dumb. I was dumb. I was ignorant. I didn't know. And now, you live and you learn. So I
Yeah.
got a better product now, knowing about the dirty and clean smoke. But yeah, there's a lot of people out there that have this misconception that the more smoke that comes out of your smoker or grill, it's good. And I don't know if places like media like Food Network had that misconception promoted, because I even look at the most recent, I think it was Bobby Flay that has a show on there, and I constantly see like billowing white smoke. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what y'all doing, man. I don't know. Did y'all have somebody else, like the producers, like pre-cook all this stuff that you did you have like the tasters like Rodney Scott tasting? Like I know Rodney Scott, he's like, he's one of the more world acclaimed pitmasters in the world. It was like, I know he's not going to eat that stuff that came out of that grill. I know better than that. But
Yeah.
it's something that you just got to learn. That's a really really good tip. So for those out there that just if it takes you a little bit more, like 5 to 10 minutes, just let that white smoke dissipate and see if you get that thin white or blue. It, I'm telling you, it'll change your life, and your family will love you. You don't want to be that
Oh, yeah.
person that gets banned from the cookouts. Or you be like Eddie Murphy's father, just like, yeah, I'd tell you how to light a fire, stuff like that. So when
Yeah.
did you realize that you were really good at barbecue?
Um, Honestly, probably when I started making some good stuff on that little cheap Walmart grill. When you sit there, and I guess the thing, when you sit back and I started to look at how low and slow is really the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where you can sit back. One thing I'll say is low and slow is very forgiving. You really
Yes.
can't mess up something, when it comes to that. You can just cook it longer.
Yep.
That's the thing. Rather than getting on there and hot and fast when it comes to learning. I did a whole lot of low and slow. I started. I mean, I started just looking at what can I do here on this little with this little snake method and make. I mean, I made some crazy good stuff, man. From taking you know, taking a chuck roast and getting it in foil with some pineapple and pineapple juice and some onions and stuff like that, a little
Mm.
salt, pepper, garlic, and just letting that roll for 5, 6 hours.
Ooh.
And then that stuff was just as tender if it had been in a crock pot for 10 hours or whatever the case may be, and it had the juice from the pineapple helped break it down and added some great flavor. So just doing different things, just trying different things and getting out of the norm of just putting red sauce on it. you know
Right.
I think that's when I really started to say, hey, you know what, this is something that I enjoy. And at that point I wasn't necessarily at that point I didn't even wasn't thinking about YouTube or anything. It was just the fact that, hey, this is good and this is something that on my off day I can sit out here and relax and enjoy and do this and you know drink a beer and smoke a cigar or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I saw that picture you sent me last night. I'm like, dang, I ran out of cigars, but I got Corona.
There you go.
Yes,
There you go.
sir. So, have you ever entered a competition, been to a competition like Memphis in May, since Memphis is close to us? Or do you aspire to go to one if you haven't been a part of?
I've I haven't entered in any contests. I actually went to Memphis in May this year,
Oh, you
and
did?
yeah, it was
I got a
great,
question.
man.
I got a question. Did
Yeah.
you see Malcolm Reed?
Oh yeah, yeah,
What?
yeah. I saw Malcolm Reed.
Oh,
Hey, it's funny when you see these folks in person, man.
yeah.
Saw Malcolm out there. Saw Heath Riles. Saw Myron Mixon,
Myron.
and
Okay.
yeah, yeah, and
Hmm.
it's really interesting, man, because everybody has their own method. When and you're allowed to walk down by the tents. I mean, they're pretty cool folks, man. I mean, people just get out there and just have a good time, and it's one of those things where you really see that, especially with the state of this world and the politics of the country and everything right now.
Mhm.
Something as simple as barbecue. One day I was talking with somebody a couple weeks ago, and was telling him, look, I don't care if you're in Panama City Beach, Florida, if you're in Phoenix, Arizona, if you're in Pakistan, you're gonna hit a brisket stall at 160. You know,
Yes.
when you get it on the smoker at between 225, 275 or whatever, you're gonna hit that stall and you're gonna have to wait for that stall. So it's a lot that barbecue has that brings folks together. That's commonplace, and you saw a lot of that in Memphis in May. I mean, there was a lot of folks out there, and we had a good time. Going around to the different booths and whatnot, and ate a lot of good food out there too.
Wow. I am very envious of you right now. I think second or third to you, I probably watch How to Barbecue Right.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm telling you, if I it's like I have this weird bucket list of people I want to meet, and Malcolm Reed is right up there, you know what I'm saying? Did you get to
Yeah,
talk to him?
I didn't when I went by. I saw him twice, and then when I went by his booth, he was there with the. I got some video at a video channel covering the visit from Memphis in May, and showing he was talking to the judges about his method on ribs. Um, but yeah, man. I mean, there was a lot of good folks out there. Um, a lot of heavy hitters in the barbecue world.
Sounds like it. I think I might have to make plans to go next year since it's technically so close to us. So I have no excuse, right? And the world should be opening back up fully by then, hopefully. Knock on wood. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Knock on some wood for real.
Yeah, we all hope.
Yeah.
um, so let's transition to your YouTube channel. So when did you decide to say, hey, self? And you probably said, yeah, self. Let me start a YouTube channel where I, document and record my cooks. What made you get to that mindset to say, I'm good at what I do. I need to teach other people?
That was actually, I guess you could call it a pandemic project.
Oh, okay.
And really
Kept you
just,
level headed.
yeah. And at the time I had gotten, was a Masterbuilt, Masterbuilt 560,
Mm,
the Gravity series,
mhm.
and got it together and did a quick, did a quick assembly video on it, and got I just used my iPhone, literally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's how I started. I didn't have any camera equipment or anything. I literally had my old iPhone and didn't have a tripod. Just just got out there and my first couple of videos were completely horrible. They were
They
just, I
weren't
mean, it
that
was
bad.
just
They
that
weren't that
when
bad.
I mean, when you sit back, when I sit back and look at it and see how far I've come with the editing and things of that nature,
You
the,
have
the
come
cooks
far.
were okay, but the videography and the editing was bad. But I didn't have a tripod or anything, and when I went outside to the grill, I literally just took my phone and just stuck it up on the. I have a wooden fence on the deck, and just stuck it up there, and that was it. So started with that, and um, and just kind of progressed over time, and ended up getting some different equipment and kind of getting heavier into the editing side of things.
So what's your recording setup? And before you answer that, I wanted to make a comment about the quality of the videos. So you have definitely like accelerated your quality of video production. I remember sending you a couple of clips because I looked at your videos. I'm like, let me see if I can try to do this. And I know that there is this saying that you need to stay in your lane. Um, that went terrible. I tried to record using my Samsung phone. I mean, it has great cameras on it, and I set the tripod up right by the grill. My dumbass was like, "Yes, I'm great," but I forgot one thing. If you put it too close to the grill, it's going to overheat, and then like I couldn't finish my cook, so I was terrible at it. So, so how did you transition from the iPhone being on your fence to the setup do you have now? What type of setup do you have up now?
Right now I use a Canon M50. Um,
Nice.
that's my primary camera, and it was just getting some things over time. I use a Canon M50 and I use a DJI Osmo Pocket 2 as kind of a secondary camera, and it just really became progression. A lot of it was learning off of comments. I changed my format. What this is one thing I think I'll never. I'm not I'm not the person that I pay attention to the food a lot. So I'm
Mhm.
not the person I'm not necessarily a have a camera right over me and talking while I'm doing things. I always do the voiceover because I worry about burning the food or messing something up or over seasoning or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
So I started with the intros and things like that, and then people started saying, well, can you do a recap at the end? And just listening to the comments, and then, hey, well, you need to do a taste test, and then so that's when I started getting more comfortable and getting in front of the camera myself, and then starting with the now I have the little intro teaser or whatever the case may be, and then going ahead and getting the actual going with render force and actually getting some a intro like a TV show, and then asking for the subscription, and then going in and covering what we're cooking and doing that stuff in front of the camera, and then doing the prep, doing the cook, and then doing the recap, taste test, and then the outro at the end.
Yeah. And with that said, make sure that you click on that link that is displaying on the screen. If you are watching, make sure you go to Outdoors with Jeff so you can subscribe and like his videos. So, are you a one man video crew or do you have help?
Yeah. I work by myself, so I use a tripod, and that's the part of it. Honestly, I think it would kind of it took some getting used to. I'm used to talking to folks and leading groups of people at work, and talking in front of large groups or whatever. But
Mhm.
when you're standing there, then it's like you're trying to be enthusiastic, looking into the lens of a camera. It kind of you really have to kind of turn it on to get into it. And I think I kind of have to get over that shyness part, because I think if somebody else was standing there back behind the camera, it would be a little bit harder for me
Really?
from
You think
from
so?
yeah from that aspect of the it's funny because when you sit there and you're looking into a camera, you're like, hey, what's up, barbecue crew, welcome back to Outdoors with Jeff, and I'm trying to imagine somebody else standing back behind there, you know while you're doing that. So it's something I'm sure I'll get over. And I may change up my format, because I do want to get a little more first person, bringing some shots in close to the food, and things of that nature. But the one thing I really do like, I guess, from this aspect is I'm uh, in in the line of work that I cover. I'm more so trying to make sure that explain things to people in a way where they can't mess it up. You have to take it from the
Mhm.
least common denominator. So I give people directions from a standpoint of is A B C D 1 2 3, and that's how I follow the format in the videos. And I know it's not for everybody. From that standpoint, I just like to give the direction and kind of go through teaching from that side of it, and covering all sides, and repeating steps and whatnot. Um, I'm I like Instagram, but I'm not really like a Reels person, because I don't think necessarily, and you can't encompass. Yeah, you can say something looks good, with the 30-second reel, but you can't
Right.
really teach somebody how to cook it in 30 seconds
Mm.
per se,
That's
or
true.
teach them the process. So I mean, on Instagram, I may just, I'll take a I'll take a picture of something or whatever the case may be, and do that. Or with some of I've done a couple of short format YouTube videos that run maybe a minute, maybe a little bit longer than a minute, and I have some things in the description covering, time and temperature and things of that nature.
So, what is the pros and cons of being a content creator on YouTube? Like, I could imagine the comments may drive you crazy. You might see some crazy stuff on there. Your learnings along the way, what to do, what not to do, based on how the reactions are. Can you go into a little detail about what you love about it, what you kind of don't like about it, and like what keeps you coming back?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. To me, and I was talking with another creator about this. YouTube is definitely one of the platforms where it's the equivalent of you know, going to the main street in your town and just standing out in the middle of the street and just singing and trying to get people to stop for you,
On the corner.
and yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And some people stop. Good
Mhm.
majority of people may keep going on by, but you've reached the audience there.
That's true.
Um, and I like that aspect of it from the aspect of you know who's really interested. Like I can release a video and know within a certain amount of time that, okay, I know these specific folks have, probably responded or viewed it or responded or whatever the case may be. Um, it's from a pro side, it gets you out of your shell.
I bet.
Um, and it makes you look at things differently. And I'm the type of person where, it makes you want to strive to be the best and do the best you can when you're looking at something. So when you're looking at editing, when I first started, I was literally just a let the camera run, get it together, we're gonna throw it up on YouTube. And now it's more so looking at things from a standpoint of, okay, I need to get this shot, I need to, move this shot over here or whatever the case may be, and then going back into editing and, okay, we're not going to just do a cross blur transition, we're going to do a fade to black and then fade back in transition. um, Getting things where, you look at lighting and sound were a big thing for me. That was probably one of that was probably really the first investment I made, because I was doing everything just into just, even with my voiceovers, it was just literally holding the phone up to my mouth and talking during a voiceover and recording. you
Yeah.
know and investing in some lights, and definitely the microphone wasn't that expensive. I was using corded mics until recently, and I just started using wireless mics. But the lighting makes all the difference in the world, and it's funny because you can tell in my video when I stopped, when I wasn't using lighting, then when I started using it, and it just makes
Yeah.
it totally different,
It
from that
does. Yeah.
aspect. And the lighting really wasn't that expensive. The lighting kit was I want to say maybe like I think I got it was like $60 on Amazon.
Hmm.
But it was two soft boxes that come with a remote, where you can, and they're LED lights, you can dim them and make them brighter, and then you can change it from a warm to cool to cold or whatever the case may be. And
Nice.
you can do all this with the remote, so you can look at yourself on the camera and not have to have somebody there, going back and forth and seeing what it looks like on the camera and all that type stuff.
Right.
So, but no, it's lighting and sound. I say where, it taught me that, and then also from an editing standpoint, I love the editing now. I used to hate it at first, but I mean, it's
It's a
starting to
lot of
get
work,
fun,
right?
especially, yeah, yeah, especially with the, trying to get shots like with the intros, or trying to make something really look good, and getting something in the beginning of in the video that's gonna catch people and hold them and keep them there for that bit of time. Looking at the YouTube analytics and looking at your time and your average watch time and things of that nature. You're trying to hone in on those pieces to make sure that you're getting your best bang for your buck with the time you're putting in on it.
Yeah. So, in terms of setup, recording, and editing, which is the most time consuming?
Um, Honestly, it depends on what's going on. Like, I'll give you a good example. The last video I did was a video on the char griller flat iron premium, and it was an assembly video and a seasoning video. And the assembly video took a bit of time, from that standpoint, just moving the camera around and showing a step by step process on assembly. I also did something at the beginning where it was, some little fun shots with the, using some LED lights and some color and things like that, and putting a nice little track behind it, as an intro to try and, capture the audience. The editing standpoint of that one, the editing on that one took a little bit of time. I think overall, probably more so. I told you I really enjoy the editing. I think the biggest thing is, when you're setting up to cook and getting the lights up, and then looking at I work in the kitchen, and then looking at the lighting outside and seeing how I have to adjust my interior lights or my soft boxes based on how much light's coming in from outside and things of that nature.
Mhm.
So I think it's kind of a tie. Sometimes it's the editing that takes a while. Sometimes it's literally the cook, having to move things around during the cook and whatnot. And that's the other reason why, when it comes to it, I just prefer to just record that way and then just do a voiceover rather than have something out with me by the grill, and talking and trying to get all that piece of it going.
Yeah. I mean, your video editing skills have definitely accelerated like tenfold. I can see it in the natural progression. Like, I mean, man, you got a lot of skill doing that, and the way that you've upped your game in a short amount of time kind of makes like a whole bunch of other YouTube people that have been doing grilling videos for years kind of make them look like slackers.
Well, it's one of those things, man. It's really fun, in that aspect of it. I enjoy putting together, be it with work or whatever the case may be. If it comes to something where we're taking pictures, or whatever the case may be, or doing a PowerPoint or whatever the case is, I just enjoy making whatever look good. And I feel the same way about videos, because the food is good. I'm gonna do just as much justice to try and make the video look good and the display look good on it as well.
Yeah, yeah. Because you eat with your eyes first, so
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
important. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what about promoting your content on social media? What are your likes and dislikes? Like do you primarily do on one platform versus the other, and what type of like shortcomings do you see? Because personally, promoting a podcast, I know of Facebook specifically, if you post any external link to anything, they kind of suppress it, and unless you pay Facebook for like a boost of like a campaign promotion. So,
Yeah.
what are your like and dislikes of doing that whole content creation promotion on social media?
Uh, the social media side of it is really a double-edged sword. As far as promoting, I'll go ahead and utilize YouTube. One of the things, I'll tell you this much. One of the things that I really like about YouTube now is using the community section
Mm,
inside and the thing with it, they actually just changed the protocols on that, to where it used to be you had to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours to be able to get the community section. Well, for a lot of smaller pages like me at the time, um, I didn't have that. I had to reach that 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours before I had a community section where I could send out a post or put up a post to my subscribers. I utilize that a lot. I'll put up a picture of what I have coming out or whatever the case may be, and then you can throw a link to the video in there and whatnot.
Mhm.
Um, and they just lowered that threshold to 500, so I'm sure a lot of other channels of that size are going to really enjoy that feature. When it comes to looking at Facebook and Instagram and things of that nature, it's just trying to tie it in. Um, I use Instagram more so as, I guess you could say, really like a almost like a business model sense, because I don't have a lot of followers on Instagram. I'm really sitting at about, I want to say, I think it's like maybe 200 or something like that.
Okay.
But but from the standpoint of companies being able to reach out to me or whatever the case may be, or doing dealings with them, um, you know, with Char-Grill or with meat or with Allegro, marinades and things of that nature. That's where I kind of use that as like a business platform. And if people follow on there, then that's good. I put out content on there the same way I do on YouTube. But then, like I say, I'm more so about the teaching. So if I have something up there, it's going to be a short video clip and some pictures rather than just you know a 30-second reel and, hey, this is it to the end. And I like to give an explanation with that. Twitter, I'm starting to get on the Twitter more, and just posting. I usually, whatever cook I do or whatever I put out, I'll usually hit up uh YouTube, uh Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and now I'm starting to get into TikTok. And I'll tell you what,
Okay.
I really like TikTok in a sense, just because of the fact, like the thing that I don't like about the Instagram side of it is like with the reels, and with the camera that I use and having to change my format,
Okay.
having to go with that uh with that portrait format where I record everything in landscape.
Right.
TikTok, I can throw it right on up there. It's really not. It's not as work intensive, where you
Mm.
can just take it and just put it up there and then just kind of go, and then it starts to get the views. So I like that aspect of it, and it's one of those things that can kind of get you out there and get your info seen, um, from that standpoint.
Where
As
do you
far as the
where do you
whole,
find more engagement from? Is it TikTok? Because I've heard good things about like really quick engagement from TikTok. Is that the platform to kind of migrate to or supplement with your YouTube? Which one is the best for you?
from a TikTok standpoint, between YouTube and, okay, I'll put it this way: comments and engagement from that is definitely YouTube in my opinion.
Okay.
TikTok will get you the views. TikTok will get you likes. You won't see as many comments per se.
Mhm.
But you'll definitely get some views on there, and you'll gain a little bit of traction from that. I like the aspect of being able to talk to go back and forth with folks on YouTube. And the same thing with Instagram. If somebody sees something, having that physical, being able to reach out and talk to somebody. The thing I like about Instagram is you can hit up somebody. It's more of a secure format where you can message somebody, rather with YouTube where it's just in a general chat, or a comment section of a video. So
Got it. Got it. So what type of content should we expect to see from you next on YouTube, TikTok, and other social platforms?
well, definitely have some griddle cooks coming up. You know, I just ended up getting that flat iron premium from Char Griller. So looking at that, and I tell you what, I love the cooks that I've done on there so far, man. That thing cooks so quick, and it's an even cook too. I mean, and the funny thing about it is you literally spend more prep time on your food than you do cooking it.
Right.
Is more of a
Yeah.
thing of making sure you have everything with you when you go out to the grills, because it all cooks so quick. So I don't have to come back inside anymore. I'm taking all this with me, and then you're done with your cooking, 15 minutes, versus on a grill where you're not dealing with that direct on the food heat. So it takes a little bit longer to cook and things of that nature, and you're just a little bit more forgiving. But from a
Mhm.
timing standpoint, man, I love that griller. You can do so much on it, and you get a lot of flavor if you get the right seasonings on your food, and you have that that cast iron griddle top, whatever, and then you get that char on certain foods, man, it's great. So I got a lot of those videos coming out. I'm gonna have a series with some sheet pan cooks on the 980. That's basically taking everything, your protein, your vegetables, and everything, where you can get it on one pan,
Mm.
and have a meal done in about maybe 45 minutes, or less. Looking at doing some things with some salmon and some asparagus and some other proteins and whatnot, and getting all that on one pan. So that's going to be coming out too. And I'm also going to start looking at doing a smoked turkey, and how I did a smoked turkey last year for Thanksgiving, and getting that out as well.
Oh man, that sounds. I'm hungry already. I'm
Yeah,
hungry
yeah,
already.
man. I'm telling you, man. It's barbecue and food are a passion for me, man. So
Yes. So I'm talking with Jeffrey Boyd from Outdoors with Jeff. We're going to go into a little bit of review session of the cookers that you've used in the past and present. So it's going to be a little bit of fun here, and you can kind of use this information to see if you want to purchase one of these items or not. So you mentioned earlier when you first started with your YouTube channel, you started with the Gravity series from Master Build. Tell us a little
yeah,
bit about how you felt about that cooker, a little bit of the details of it, and maybe why you don't use that anymore.
yeah. It was a great cooker. Masterbuilt came out first to the to the grid as a company that was utilizing a gravity fed uh, process. And there are other gravity fed smokers out there, but you have to understand those things are running like, upwards of, 2, 3, 4 grand.
Mm,
Because gravity fed pits have been out for a while, but they're just really expensive, and they're really huge. And Masterbuilt had the first forced fan gravity fed smoker that uses a fan similar to a almost like a pellet grill as far as feeding, and that
okay.
and that fan blowing on that fire, on that charcoal, which creates the heat, and then it going into the chamber. And that was a good unit for me. As far as getting started, and and time progressed, and then Chargrilla came out with the 980, and it was a lot larger unit. It was a lot larger unit, and I
Especially for the
saw it.
money, right? You know,
Yeah, yeah,
the cost, you got almost double the space, right?
yeah, yeah. For literally only $100 more.
Mm.
And so went ahead and got one of those, and I love it, man. It's a large cooker. You can get some good flavor profiles with different woods on there. And it's really a great cooker overall. I like the aspect of the barrel cooker, and it's an even cook too. That thing probably, I think, is one of the best engineered grills I've seen out there. Um, with the way they engineered the heat manifold, and I have a video on it too. But the heat manifold, it promotes even heat because it has these flute vents on it that get larger as they get toward the end of the chamber.
Mm, okay.
And what it does is it dissipates that heat at an even pace. And then you also have a heat diffuser going across the top, so that you don't have that direct heat coming right up straight on your food. It kind of dissipates some and comes through the vents. And I tell you what, man, I've temped that thing all the way across the top, man, and it from corner to corner, except for that back right corner that gets a little bit warmer, you can
Yeah.
get an even cook across there, which enables you to get more food on there. There are certain spots on other. Everybody knows their hot spot on the grill where you can't put something because you may burn it, or it may char or cook faster, or whatever the
Right.
case may be. And I don't have the problem with the 980.
Okay. So versus, if you have a versus, we all know about versus these days. So if you have a versus, I recall you having a video on this, a comparison between the two. So
Mm,
if you have the Master Build Gravity and you have the Char Griller Gravity Series 980, toe to toe, let's say, I don't know, uh, pick a protein. Which one did you? I can't recall which you compared it with. Was it what type of meat was it?
Um, as far as overall cooks,
Mhm.
they both cook well, but
Mhm.
I give it to the 980 all day.
And why
It's
is that? Does it just have a better heat management system? Does it have a
that
better
that's
build quality?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is the heat man. The biggest thing is the heat management system for me, and just dissipating that heat evenly, and also from a build quality, using some of the heavier metals, being insulated in more places, and things of that nature, double wall insulation around certain parts. It seems like a heavier quality build. And
Uh-huh.
but like I say, the master build is a great cooker, but when it comes to that durability, and then especially like me, I keep all my pits outside and covered,
Mhm.
and that's the thing. From that quality standpoint, that 980 takes it for me hands down.
Does it feel more like, and I'm speaking of the Char Griller Gravity 980, does it feel more like an offset than the Master Build Gravity?
Yeah, from the weight standpoint, um, and then also from that design too. One of the things, Char Griller was one of the, basically the one of the best selling offset cookers in the US here. It's
Mhm.
one of those ones where you see, you can ride by it and look at it and see, yeah, that's a char griller, from that standpoint of,
Yeah.
having that lower firebox on the side, and then,
Mhm.
and people can, you can people keep them for years, people can recondition them and things of that nature. And that's the thing right there. When you look at it and you know something that when you get a grill, you don't expect the grill to last 100 years, but when you know it's something that you can, hey, if you got to sand it down and repaint it, or re-season, or whatever the case may be, or you need to get another part for it,
Mhm.
that's what I like about some of the things that Char Griller has going on from that standpoint. Uh, One of the things dealing with the Acorn, I think that's one of the better grills out there. And when you look at it from a standpoint of, Kamado style cooking, and coming in under $300, where, you're looking at big green eggs. And I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying from a standpoint of, from a price standpoint, or whatever the case
Right.
may be, where you can get that same style cook at that price. And then
Mhm.
also, if something happens and you need to replace a part, or whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
you can get another lid, you can get another bottom, 20, 30, $40, or whatever the case may be, and then get back up and get cooking, after, so I mean, and the style of cooking that you get with that Kamado, and the different things you can do, is one of those things where, I don't know why I didn't have one earlier.
Yeah, I did. And for those that listen to the pod, I had a Acorn. I think I let it go about a year ago, but I primarily do the Weber kettles now. And
Hmm.
the only thing I didn't like about the Acorn, and it's more user error than the actual product itself, is
Hmm.
the fact that I didn't know how to do the right, like, um airflow with it, and I got dirty smoke. That's the one I was talking about earlier when I, I got smoke
Hmm.
inhalation. Yeah.
Hmm.
But it was a rock solid grill. It had cast iron grates.
Hmm.
There was a warming rack, which was it was what, stainless steel, I believe.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it came with the diffuser, the heat diffuser, so you could have indirect cooking.
yeah.
I'm telling you, if I had the actual airflow right and the heat management right, there's two things that I really loved about the Acorn. It didn't matter how cold it was outside. I think I made really great stuff with, even when it was snowing out.
Yeah.
And I had a really hot and fast, really good hot and fast grill. I remember the first pizza I did on a grill was on the Acorn. And you, speaking of, the Acorn, Last night you did what you spoke about earlier is you did a couple of pizzas on the Acorn, and
Yeah.
so with that, and I know that the cachet, the love of marketing has, the Kamado Joes out there, the big green eggs out there. You were alluding to this a couple of minutes ago, but do you think that it is worth ponying up the extra money for some ceramic Kamado, or do you just will you get everything you need out of this charcoal acorn?
I'll tell you what, for the price of, for the price of a big green egg or a Joe, and like I said, I'm not knocking them. I could get three or four acorns
Right.
and give them to folks from that standpoint. And from the cook standpoint, it cooks the same. And when I look at it, I I manage P&Ls and profit and loss statements and things of that nature. So when I look at it from a return on investment standpoint and whatnot,
Mhm.
it is it's a no brainer for me to go with the Acorn because of what it can do, um, and how you can do it, and the accessories that you can get and everything else for it, and not have to worry about necessarily breaking the bank. I've cooked on a big green egg before, and it's a great cooker. I just know from a standpoint of something where if I can find everything I need in a grill that's that's $300, under $300, and then the other thing too is it's a little bit more durable. I don't have to worry about I had a I had a buddy of mine that in St. Louis that got caught up, and we used to get hailstorms and tornadoes out there like you wouldn't believe, but he got caught up in a bad hailstorm, and his girl didn't make it.
Oh
He
wow.
got from that standpoint, it was a ceramic cooker,
Mm.
and it's one of those things where you look at it, and I just look at it from a cost benefit analysis. But for what you can do with a with a acorn, I love it, man. I love it, and it's even going from low and slow to hot and fast in a few minutes, and having a just having that thing there where you can get it to where it will hold temperature. One of the things I do with my vents is I'll go ahead and when and it depends on how I light it too. But if I'm trying to do say like say if I'm reverse searing a steak or whatever, I'm gonna start and get it to about 275. So I'll go ahead and sometimes it depends. I may do a charcoal chimney. If I have a charcoal down in there, I'll just take a couple of starters and light them and get them on in there, and
Mhm.
then just take the temperature up to about right at about leave the vents wide open until I get to about maybe 175 degrees. So I'm shooting for 275, and I just start dialing it back. And then
Yeah.
once I hit about 225, I got that thing down next to nothing on the bottom vent, and then I just take it to the little half moons on the top vent right when I hit 225, and then that thing will lock in right at 275, and it'll hold right there with that little bit of airflow.
That's
And
right.
it's an efficient cooker. It doesn't use a whole lot of lump as well,
Mhm.
so that's one of the other reasons I love it, man. I mean, from a charcoal standpoint, I use a lot less charcoal in there than I do in other smokers.
That's cool. Yeah, I found that the Kamado type grills, like you can if you don't dial it back early,
Hmm.
that heat will get away from you real
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah. That's probably why I don't know. I use error again. I didn't take time to really perfect what I was doing with that, but it is a great cooker, and and I think we touched on this earlier before the show started. But the maintenance of it and maintenance of like grills in general is you kind of got to treat it like a cast iron skillet. You don't want to put soap water on it to cause it to rust out and everything. You need to really
yeah,
take care of it and oil it up and maintain it in that aspect. Try not to use, I guess, oven cleaner on it. Um, uh, Dawn dish, water. You don't want to put that on there. Don't put the hose on it. Don't do that.
yeah.
Um, Yeah. I mean, I love those girls. So you are a ambassador for Char Griller. We had a question in the chat about that. How did you come to that point where you became an ambassador for Char Griller brand?
Um, yeah, I had started the channel up, and it was just one of those things where I was already making content, and it just was a beneficial relationship. I applied for the program, and they had seen some of the work that I had done, and they came back and said, "Yeah, we'd like to support you with this and see what you can do." And it's one of those things where, regardless of being an ambassador for them or not, I was going to be doing the same thing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Putting out a content on a bi-weekly basis. So it really just came together and worked like that. I get some good support with them from an aspect of looking at different types of cooks and cookers and things of that nature. Um, and I enjoy the relationship so far. I mean, it's one of those things where I can put some different things out there and show folks different cooking styles on equipment that I really like and believe in.
All right. Yeah. I mean, they make really good products. They call themselves the brand for professional, cookers. I think they back that up pretty well. And from what you told me, they have really good customer service.
Yeah.
So if anything goes wrong versus Master Build, anything goes wrong, then they would be more willing to correct the issue faster than, slow resolution. That's good. So you ready to have some fun about some random questions here?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So let's go into this. I'm talking to Jeffrey Boyd from Outdoors with Jeff on YouTube and the other social medias. So, yes, how about let's talk about how do you feel about pellet grills? I don't know if you own one. I don't know if you want to own one, but how do you feel about pellet grills?
I used to have let's say this. I'll say this. My thought process on barbecue overall has changed. And because I used to be one of those folks that pounding the table about you can only cook on charcoal and charcoal is the best and gas isn't anything and blah blah blah. What it is everything has a place.
Mhm.
Everything has a place, and I realized that in barbecue, because gas and pellet grills are great if you want to come home. Like you can literally come home and cut both of those on and be cooking in a couple minutes during the week. Because I'm a weeknight barbecuer where I like to, there are times where I was cooking out 3-4 times a week.
Yep.
During the week or whatever the case may be. It's a good quick startup. As far as the flavor, I feel like you definitely get more flavor with charcoal. That's why I prefer it. Using charcoal and wood. But I don't have anything against it. And a lot of the pellet grill flavor profiles that they have coming out now with the different flavor pellets, you get some flavor from it. Not as much as you would from charcoal and wood, but I'm not knocking them. The other thing too is as technology grows, we're coming to a point, because I remember guys that would sit up there and talk about, you, they feel like you have to sit back and you have to wait 10, 12 hours with the offset in order to have a brisket,
Right.
where you have technology now with say like the 980 where you can go ahead and you can set your temperature and just check on your meat, check on your charcoal every now and again, and
Mhm.
just know that you're going to hold that temperature.
Yeah.
Same thing with meter, where I love cooking with that, where that app literally tells you, hey, you want to hit 135 on this? Okay, this thing is at 121 now. You need to pull this off. It'll have the carryover for you to take you to 135.
Yeah.
So I mean, the technology is growing in charcoal. As long as more people get into it, I'm fine with it. Be it pellet or propane or whatever.
What is the most difficult thing that you've ever cooked on or on the grill or smoker? It's a tough one, isn't it?
I tell you what, I'd say it's a cross between probably my first brisket and honestly probably a cross between that and Thanksgiving turkey. And
Mhm.
it really wasn't the fact that they were hard. It was more so just being nervous about messing them up because you had other people waiting on it.
That's right.
That was the biggest thing, it's just like, you just don't want to, you want to make sure the turkey's got a, good crispy skin. And I had spatchcocked that one, and just want to make sure everything turned out right, and then the first brisket, of course, is like, that's everybody's little, their little tried and true test as far as that goes, is making sure you get a good brisket that doesn't turn out dry. And it's funny. I mean, I just that worked for me, and I literally have had the same brisket recipe that I've always used. I've never deviated from it. So
Yeah, so you don't use like the trendy stuff like beef tallow and all that on there.
just salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper, Texas style.
Just Yeah, just salt and pepper.
All right, yeah. What is your favorite part of the brisket? Is it the flat or point?
Point all day.
All day. I
I'll eat a point all day, man. Get some burn ends,
That's
and then
right.
take the rest of the point and get a sandwich. That's it.
I remember going to restaurants like Jim and Nick's, really popular,
Hmm.
and I almost got turned off for a brisket because of the big box restaurants. It's usually dry. I don't know.
Yeah,
So how do you keep your brisket from drying out like those that have been acclaimed for having great barbecue, but don't?
I keep, as far as when I cook, I use a water pan in there.
Mm.
And the biggest thing is, literally just trying to plan it around what time of day you want to eat. I have I'll use a cooler, but I'll let that brisket rest. Um, some people like to cut it within 2 hours. I let my brisket rest at least 4 hours in
So
a
there,
in a
there's no
cooler
like
wrapped in towels.
there's no quick fast and ready brisket, what you're trying to convey to people. So if you got people over, you're still cooking the brisket while they're there. You're trying to get it ready for whatever time that you want to eat. You're probably not going to have a good product if you try to rush that thing
No,
and cut it, right? Yeah.
no. Briskets are, if I'm doing a brisket for, if I'm doing a brisket for say on a Sunday at 5 o'clock or something like that, I'm starting that thing Saturday night,
That makes sense.
and there's going to be a good amount of rest in that cooler too, beforehand, just to let that thing, let that moisture get reabsorbed and whatnot. And that's the thing here. It's literally just the timing side of it.
Does it matter doing hot and fast, or do you have to take it as low and slow as possible?
So, so when you say hot and fast, what temperature are you trying to get at?
Let me
Because
see.
I'm when it comes to barbecue, I'm the king of 275. I found that
Yeah, I see
I
that.
found that I found that be it a pork shoulder or a
Mhm.
brisket, um, thick cut chops or whatever the case may be, 225 to me. I used to run at 225 a lot of things, and I found on longer cooks, I was adding extra, extra hour, 2 hours, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
275 was my sweet spot, and it's enough to where.
Oh, we got to cut out real quick. Let me put you back off mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. Yeah, I found that from that stand.
We're getting a little cut out from you still. I think you're back now. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, 275 worked great for me on that standpoint, and I found I had less issues going that way with it.
Yeah. So yeah, there's this big debate about low and slow and hot and fast with the briskets, and so to break down the tissue. So as long as you don't go over 275, like you're not going 300 and plus, you should be okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. What is your favorite protein? Is it tri-tip or is it something else that is your go-to?
Tri-tip is my go-to. I'll tell you, man, I feel like I can get sometimes more flavor out of a tri-tip than I can a ribeye.
Really?
And the fact that you can get a tri-tip and yeah, you can get a tri-tip, get a good rub on it. And then from that standpoint too, you can if you're cooking for multiple people,
Mhm.
you can get anywhere from if they like it well, you can cook it. You get all those different temperatures inside that one steak. From medium to medium well or whatever the case may be. Medium rare if you want it, and that's what I love about it.
So let's change a little topic here. Ribs. We all like ribs. If you eat pork, hopefully.
Mhm.
What is your favorite cut of rib? Is it the St. Louis cut or is it the baby back?
I go back and forth between it. I like both the St. Louis and the baby backs.
Mhm.
Um, I tend to like baby backs a little more. I know some people say, well, they can be a little bit drier, and I just tend to,
I never found that.
yeah. I don't I wrap my ribs, and one of the things I'm going to start doing here now is I want to try and see how peach butcher paper does with it.
You love peach, don't you?
Oh,
You embrace the whole Georgia thing. Here's the thing. I see you use peach a lot in your cooking. How did you find that love for peach?
I tell you what, man, something dealing with getting those different flavor profiles. We get stuck on a lot of folks get stuck on just the brown sugar base,
Right.
and I like getting those different flavor profiles in there, just to get something different. I use a lot of Heath Riles rubs. He's got some great stuff out there. Uh, Peach rub, pecan, cherry, apple. Um, I love one of the ones that I really like is his garlic jalapeno rub.
Mm.
Um, so you there are different things that are out there that you can go with without just getting just a basic sweet heat.
So, are you membrane or no membrane?
No membrane.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that answer. I know in the restaurants they try to score it and because it takes time to take membranes off of all those ribs, but I think people is worth it. I actually grew up with membrane on, and the way my dad cooked it, it was hot and fast ribs, so it wasn't chewy. So that's fine. Some people have those camps where they have membrane, they're hell bent on membrane, and the other ones are like, you're ruining the world if you have the membrane on. Why'd you do this to me? I have to deal with this texture. Yeah. So I definitely became no membrane. There are a couple of times though where I've made ribs that had the membrane. I did score it, and I guess it's personal preference because
Hmm.
you had a couple of people that kind of noticed the membrane. I noticed it because I was cognizant of it. I was like, yeah, let me see how this tastes. And then others was like, hey, it holds the meat together better. Like, I don't like the fall apart ribs. And I'm like, well, it wasn't fall apart anyway. So yeah, I guess it's just total personal preference and how they were raised, how they got the product at restaurants more than likely. I don't know, but yeah, membrane definitely. Now on pork on beef ribs,
Hmm.
I assume you don't take the membrane off because the meat would definitely fall off the bone.
Yeah, you just keep that on there. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Do you like sauce or no sauce on your ribs?
I It depends on how I'm doing them. I love a dry rub rib. Um,
Mhm.
and that's just me. I think one of the things, the way that I sauce my ribs, I kind of try and get the best of both worlds. Where I don't sauce the back of my ribs. So what I
Yeah,
do
not
is
really any point, right?
Yeah, yeah. And what I do is, one of the joys of I feel like is a joy. I know I'm getting in these technical terms, and some people may be like, "Man, he sounds crazy." But one of the joys of getting a rib is a dry rub rib is getting that taste from that bite on the back of the rib,
Yes.
and and getting that dry rub and that flavor that you get from it, and that's why I like the dry rub ribs. So when I do ribs, I'll leave the back dry, and I always season the back of my ribs pretty heavy, and then I'll have the sauce on top, so I still kind of get the best of both worlds from that standpoint. But
That's awesome.
and also going to the sauce too, I use a lot of different things from like Texas pepper jelly, their pineapple habanero, their glazes and whatnot are really good on ribs as well. They have some that's different flavors in their rib candy line where you can get like a hot apple and things of that nature, and mango and all these different flavor profiles that I was talking about earlier, where you can find things rather than just the sweet sauce or the vinegary sauce to go with.
Are you are you a person that has ever used the mop sauce?
Yeah, yeah, I do that sometimes when I do a dry rub rib. Um, and with that, I don't wrap them either. When I do a dry rub, I just let it run all the way through,
Mhm.
without wrapping in foil or anything.
Got it. Yeah. I guess that is the way that you would do it if you don't want to really wrap, because it keeps it moist. It introduces more seasoning. Like when you do your mop sauce, do you have something like an onion and something in it, or is it kind of like a diluted type of barbecue sauce in a way?
It's a little bit of sauce, and then sometimes I may put a little bit of like Italian dressing in there, and it's all really about seasonings, getting a little bit of extra flavor in there, and something that will go on there and keep that rib moist, but at the same time will let your rub set to where you're not having a mushy a mushy rub at the end. It's dried on.
Right.
It's tacked up to the rib.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's important for people to understand, like, they have to. I technically learned how to cook ribs in the oven, and even with that, I didn't let a whole bunch of like clumpy barbecue sauce be on the top of it, you know. And I think it's important for people to understand that even if you put sauce on it, give it time to tack up. And that tack up method is maybe like what, 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how hot your grill is, for
Yeah.
that barbecue sauce to set on there. And even if you have people that don't necessarily like barbecue sauce on there, if it
Mhm.
tacks up right, they're not going to argue about it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right, and it also depends on how thick or thin your sauce is too. It's funny because I always doctor up my barbecue sauce. If I buy a store bought sauce or something of that nature,
Mhm.
and my go tos for that, I always used to put just a little bit of apple cider vinegar in there and a little bit of cayenne pepper
Nice.
to anything. And it depends on depending on how much apple cider vinegar you get in there. You're going from either a barbecue sauce to a glaze.
Right.
A glaze is great, and that tang from the apple cider vinegar is great. It just takes a little bit longer to tack up.
Right. So, have you noticed a price increase, meat shortage in your area? I know we're technically in the same larger area of metropolitan Atlanta. I know
Yeah,
my way, I can barely find chicken wings, and if I do, they
yeah. You got to take a mortgage out on for some chicken wings now.
let me
It's
tell you, I was at Walmart the other day and I priced it at Publix and whatever about Publix. Anyway, so I don't like Publix. So, uh, I saw one of two packs of like the tray of the chicken wings. It means the flat, the drum, and the tip, and they had
Mhm.
it in the carton, and it was like $20. I'm
Yeah.
like, nah. So do you have to just take the hit if you want to produce a video, and just like, yeah, I just gotta take that hit, or do you find a way to get that product from like maybe a butcher that has a better supply chain? How do you work the supply chain issue?
Typically, with that, it just depends on what I'm trying to cook. I haven't really done that many chicken wings as of late, just because of the fact of we've really just been hitting it's been a shortage now for a good while, at least here in Georgia,
Mhm.
on wings. I remember I did the last video I did on some wings. I ended up having to buy 3 packs of small wings. I think I ended up spending around maybe, I want to say close to 40 some dollars just for that cook for the wings.
What?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
from that standpoint, I just, I look and see what, where the prices are going. It's one of those things where you just have to live with it from that standpoint, unless you got an online outlet or something.
Right.
I prefer the fresh stuff. I don't necessarily like to get stuff shipped that's frozen. And
Mhm.
I also use Midtown Butcher in Atlanta.
Mm.
And they have a pretty good supply chain there, where you can get what you need. It'll be fresh. Of course, their prices have gone up a little bit too with everything that's going on right now. But I mean, there's still some go-to guys for when you're trying to get something.
Yeah, and I saw the increase of steak. Like, I
Hmm.
love to cook steak for my wife because she loves cowboy ribeye.
Hmm.
And I tell you, it was a no-brainer, like impulse buy, easy a few months ago, if not, more than that. But recently, I'm like, we got to go with the New York strip a little bit. We got to go with the thinner one. 'Cause it's like everything is going up in price, and you gotta indulge yourself more than less often than usual than you used
Hmm.
to. I wonder, and I've said this on the previous podcast. I know why the prices increased because of COVID. They had to institute like divisions between people in the plants, so they're not shoulder to shoulder like they used to be. So it's
Hmm.
less efficient, and people are calling out because they got COVID, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it drives up the price. And then there's a port issue of stuff that gets the imported from other countries as well.
Hmm.
Man, so does that impact? uh, it's kind of a different question from what I just asked you, but does that impact what you try to cook on your videos, versus like, hey, I'm planning for this, kind of thinking about it in the business aspects. Like, I have this roadmap of ideas that I want to have on my video production. Does that impact what you have on your timeline of producing videos?
Not necessarily. I think it's more so. I think my thought process is, one of the things. Like, if I know right now, like I wouldn't necessarily, because when I look back through my comments, a lot of folks end up going ahead and getting, they're like, yeah, I'm gonna get this rub and I'm gonna get this and that and I'm gonna buy it off your Amazon affiliate, this and that and the other. So
Mhm.
my thing is like, well, I'm not necessarily gonna, put out a chicken wing video, because I know it's hard to get chicken wings right now. So, that's not gonna be something that everybody can have access to at this point.
Right.
Um, as far as like the value thing, I think, like I told you about tri-tip, that's something that can feed a family. You can feed a family off of one steak,
Right.
with a tri-tip. So that's a little bit more economical from that standpoint. Um, going into the sheet pan cooks, where you can do everything all at one point, and then trying to keep it at a reasonable price point. I think that's one of the things I'm looking at there, and looking at getting a whole dinner for X amount of dollars. So I take that into account, and looking at it. I'm not necessarily one of the guys that, I'll push some prime cuts or whatever the case may be. I'm definitely not one of the, you know Wagyu everything. type guys. That's this the this this beef was imported from wherever, and this. No, I'm not that's not this type of channel. I
You're
mean,
not disingenuous, basically.
yeah. I tend to focus in on the things that you can go out and get from your local grocery store, from your local Walmart. If you want to live it up and do a little bit, you can go down to your butcher and see if they can get this or whatever the case may be. But I'm a right out the case kind of guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's all about making it better for the people that need a lower barrier of entry to barbecue. And I think you do that well, mixing different flavor profiles that you have, the techniques, the type of cuts that you have, and the cookers that you use. That makes it better for the backyard pit masters or the ones that want to be backyard pit masters. That's a good barrier of entry for them because they don't feel like they need to cook to the level of a competition champion,
Yeah,
getting all this wagyu over here. Like realistically, wagyu is kind of like the really fine wine when you think of your family aspect. And I've
hmm
heard about this on different avenues or medians the way they talk about this thing. It's like, hey, when you get past a certain point of quality of meat, your family
yeah,
doesn't even care. It's kind of like boxed wine versus like a really long aged fine wine. Like
yeah.
the flavor palettes, the return on investment of that is negligible. So you just wasted your money. And if you're trying to learn how to cook, don't get a wagyu. Why are you doing it?
And I'll tell you this real quick, man. Uh, in in um, in my former line of work, part of what we did, um, part of the things that we sold, we had a meat department, from that standpoint, and you'd be surprised how, like, I'll give you a good example right now. If you go out and try and buy brisket from Costco, you're gonna get even before, even pre-pandemic. Costco had pretty good prices on their prime brisket because
Mhm.
they were comping other locations,
Right.
or other companies, Sam's Club, BJ, whatever the case may be. So their prime brisket was cheaper than than the choice brisket,
Mhm.
just because they were comping that, and you could get a prime brisket for, for 48, $50 or whatever, full pack of brisket, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but it's funny, man, because when you talk to folks in the restaurant industry and restaurant business and whatnot, you'd have people that would sit up there where, some places were coming in asking, "Hey, can you guys get some select cuts on steak or ribeye or whatever, strip or whatever?" Because I mean, we season it, we doctor it up,
Yep.
and we sell it. And that's one of those things where, it gives us a little bit higher margin on what
Mhm.
we have. And we'll hey, I tell you what, I can serve you a steak that's a select and a choice, and you won't be able to tell the difference.
That's
Now,
all I'm saying.
not
Yeah.
everybody may be able to do that at home, but cooking like that and then having to watch margins and things of that nature,
Yeah.
you know, folks know how to get around that. And I totally
Exactly.
agree with you on that.
Yeah. It's just that whole perception thing, trying to keep up with the Joneses and influencers. I
Mhm.
I'm glad you're not one of those. I'm not gonna call on anybody's name on YouTube because I like to think that I could probably have them on a future podcast as well. But they always are like wagyu, beef tallow, all these expensive ingredients. And like unless you're trying to cook for a competition,
Mhm.
just stay in your lane. Just enjoy it. So with that, and we're about to close in a few minutes because we actually went way over time. But this is such a great conversation that hey, we can't cut it short. With the whole type of growing to where you've come to be at this point from where you were, do you kind of basically take the scientific aspect of it. Like you don't have to memorize or stick to certain temperatures and blah blah blah. And if you overshoot, undershoot, are you going crazy? Are you OC about that? Or do you just enjoy it, sit back, and just let that be the thing that levels you out in the universe?
Um, I'll tell you what, I enjoy the cooking. I enjoy that aspect of it, but I also definitely look at getting cooking the temp. That's one of the biggest things
Mhm.
that I learned some years back in getting a meat thermometer and just going from there. Because I mean, we all had it growing up where it's just like, hey, well, we just cook it till it's done. It's like it looked done,
It looked
and
good.
so yeah, and so if you're eating food that somebody's overcooked or whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
or even now looking at it, even when you have your thermometer, you're looking, okay, well, look, you got to make sure you pull it off because you got carryover. Because I mean,
Mhm.
7 degrees can make a difference in the steak. If you pull it
Yeah.
right off at 135 versus pulling it sooner and letting that carryover take it. I'm big into cooking, cooking the temperature. I'm not a sous vide person. Um, that
Ugh,
may be later on down the line, but I definitely understand the
don't do it.
concept of.
Don't do it. No, don't do it. I don't get the point. I don't get the point. I really don't. Because you have to put it on the grill anyway.
It's one of those things, man, where when you look at it, I tell you, it's a lot of things that are out there that really the changes in technology that come out there, and I get it from a standpoint of having to put it on a grill and having to sear it, from that standpoint. I guess I'm talking about more in terms of if you're just doing just a general sous vide and just
Oh,
getting whatever the temperature and going from there and not having to use the grill. But I understand what you're saying. When it comes to cooking with the grill or whatever, I like to try and stay on one cooker as much as I can.
right. Like if you're gonna get it dirty anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
And I understand it as well that people it's more convenient. Maybe if you don't have a grill, maybe you've just have the sous vide and the oven.
Hmm.
Perfect. But if you're gonna put it on the grill anyway, come on, man. It's almost like I feel like it's a safety net in a way, and I get it.
Hmm.
People want to make sure it's cooked the temperature, have that even, you know, doneness all through the
Hmm.
meat. Want to make it look good for the guest, but it almost seems like it's worth it more in the long term to just figure out and master the cooker that you have if you're going to put it on the grill anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I totally agree with you. When you're cooking when you're cooking on a grill and like I told you, as long as you're low and slow, you really can't mess it up. You can
That's right.
always take it longer. But if you get that thing hot, you can't reverse temperature.
That's right.
So you can't. Just like if a barber mess up your haircut, if you take it low and slow, that's
Whew,
fine. If he takes a big chunk out,
whew.
you just got to be bald for the week.
That's like on what barbershop 2.
Yeah,
Yeah, had that, had that bald spot. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
yeah, definitely. I mean, mastering the grill is a part of our heritage. We talked about it briefly before the show started. Like
yeah.
the way that we've learned how to master barbecue in general is a part of our African heritage.
Hmm.
It is something that is, I wouldn't say, um, uh, I don't say it's in our blood, everybody's blood, because some people just can't cook, but it is something that is is a representation of our forefathers, mothers. Yeah, it's embracing that whole thing, just understanding the mechanics of it, but not obsessing over it. Sometimes I do analyze things. I admit to that. My wife has caught me a few times like, hey, would you just chill out? This is supposed to be something that is like zen for you. You're just freaking out. And if I mess something up, I'm pissed off and like, why? Like other people, do you ever get to the point where you're pissed off, like you feel that you messed up something and everybody's like, I don't see it.
Yeah, it's I tell you what, it's one of those things when you're having to cook for guests, and I'm one of these folks that's always on a time thing where if especially if I'm doing something on the grill, you just have to plan for having extra time.
Right.
So, when people are starting to show up, or you get somebody that shows up early, and it's like, it's still that's when I start getting antsy, or whatever
Right.
the case may be. But it usually comes out all right from that standpoint. I don't really have any issues. But I agree with what you said, man. I think one of the biggest things when you look at, not necessarily grilling, but when you look at barbecuing, where a lot of that came from taking cuts of meat that weren't necessarily supposed to be the greatest, and
Right.
just letting that fat render down and take it low and slow to where it's tender, it's moist, it's got flavor, and then presenting it to somebody to eat.
That's
That
kind of
that
like
that that's
brisket.
that. Yeah, exactly. And like I say before, man, I always tell people barbecue is a culture. It's not just putting something on a grill to cook or a smoker.
Right.
Is literally it's a culture that goes into it, and a lot of different things go into that. Be it heritage, be it just sitting around and having a fellowship, or whatever the case may be, talking with folks, even what we're doing now, just sitting back and shooting a bit at what we think about barbecue and how we enjoy it. That's all a part of the culture that goes into it. It's not just slapping a hamburger on the grill and then
No,
you
no.
got barbecue.
Yeah, you could cook a hamburger. That's like first grade for you. Great. Some people can't make it past that. I don't know. I mean, I've been to a lot of cookouts. There've been
Yeah.
hockey pucks galore. you know. So I know it's about time for games to start. We're gonna wrap up real quick, but tailgating. Let me ask you about tailgating first before I ask you about the specific thing of tailgating. Do you have a favorite football team?
I tell you what, man,
Don't say
I'm
the
a I'm
Falcons.
a
Don't you
no,
say it.
no, 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 man. I'm a old school uh Steve McNair, Eddie George, Tennessee Titans fan.
Okay. All right. I
So
respect.
from the day, and growing up in Virginia, everybody wanted to claim the Washington football team. I've always been a Titans fan from that standpoint.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you never lived in Tennessee though, right?
No, 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 never lived in Tennessee. No, never
And
been all.
I'm always like, why do people feel like I need to be from the town, city, state from where I am a fan of? Because I would say when I'm a player fan,
Mhm.
uh you're gonna look at me, you like, really, dude? I'm a Tom Brady fan. You're like, you hopped on that bandwagon, didn't you?
No,
Um,
no, hey, man, look, I heard it on other podcasts, so I've gotten over it already.
okay. You got oh man. I mean, I was riding with him when when he first came in. So I mean technically I was a Drew Bledsoe fan too, but no,
Mhm.
he didn't make it, whatever. But yeah, so tailgating. Have you ever been tailgating? Do you want to do it? Is it like, and if you have been, is it fun?
Well, that man, that's been God, 20 years now. I went to I graduated from Virginia Tech, and big football school, and that was one of those
Yeah,
things where before
Mikey
the
Vick.
game, I mean, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
everybody was out there, from that standpoint. um I I don't really see myself tailgating now. um and I guess more so, I think, if I found a way to do it to where, because when I sit down, if I'm around the grill, I want to. I'm not necessarily going after like the hamburgers, the hot dogs, maybe some brats or something like that. But like when it comes to it now, like if anybody asks me about a hamburger, I want a smash burger. You know, I want those type things that I know what I want. It's not just necessarily the hot, quick, and fast, type thing of it. But I'm open to tailgating. It's just one of those things where I haven't done it in so long. where I really just think that, I'd rather sit back and, make whatever I got to make and, go from that standpoint.
All right. I think I've only been tailgating once. I didn't cook anything. It's like I don't know. I kind of feel like if I'm going to the game, maybe I should go inside the game.
Hmm.
you know, I can understand if I can't get tickets at the last minute. I was hoping to get a scalper. I'm just
Hmm.
chilling outside, but yeah, I kind of want to do it, but I don't want to do it at a Falcons game.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of disappointment in those. Nah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, man.
So we're wrapping up real quick. And it's been a pleasure to have you on. I want to know two things. I'll let the people know two things. What comes next for you, and how can people find you on the internet?
Uh, as far as what's next, I'm just gonna keep cooking. I mean, I enjoy it. I really think that it's really a joy in barbecuing, and I like to show people that barbecue can be simple. And I try to speak to a wide variety of folks when in my cooks. One of the things I learned is that people. I'm talking to a lot of folks that are on the base layer, and I have a
Mhm.
lot of folks that are at the intermediate and at the expert level. So I enjoy it, man. It'll just be a lot more cooks coming. People can find me on, like I said, on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, uh, Facebook, and Twitter. Outdoors with Jeff.
All right. Well, I hope you come back, and maybe in the future we can do some collaborations. When the world is safe, we can maybe, I don't know, go to Memphis in May. you know, I
Yeah.
would that'd definitely be dope. But I would say if I'm not a fan person like that, but I fanned out a little bit when I found your channel. I must say you're doing great stuff. So people stop hesitating. Go to youtube.com and look up Outdoors with Jeff. You won't be disappointed. It's high video quality, and even the shorts are awesome. The way that he uses different flavor combinations is like, wow, let me get outside of this box that I'm in, just using this store bought, you know, barbecue sauce and staying in this little confined label that I put myself in. You got me wanting to try some different things. And I really appreciate what you're putting out there as a product for the people to watch, learn, and I learned a whole bunch from you. You should never be at the point to where you're not open to learn new things, new techniques, and just be open to try to use new products out there. Like the Char Griller brand, they put out some good stuff. And again, thank you for coming on the pod. I hope we can do it again. And for those out there that are trying to get into the backyard pitmaster scene, hey man, light that thing up. you know, just light it
Yes,
up.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All
Yeah,
right.
I definitely
So
appreciate you having me.
oh, it's been an honor. So those out there, please follow Jeff and all that he does. And thank you for tuning in to the live recording of the Backyard Pitmaster podcast, brought to you by the Mavcast podcast channel. Whew. And have a happy Sunday, fun day. God bless. Mask up. And there's a snake in my boot.
I don't wanna wait, I don't wanna say.